There is not a conspiracy to help Real Madrid win the Champions League. I cannot make that any clearer. VAR is also not to blame when you don't like the outcome. Sometimes stuff you don't like just happens, and it's usually because of a bad rule or archaic traditions in the game of football. That was the problem yesterday with Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid, and everybody's complaining about the wrong things. Conspiracy theories must hit so hard if you're stupid. We're going to talk about that next here on Pints and Punditry on the Pitchside Pub. Why would UEFA want Real Madrid to win the Champions League? Sure, TV ratings are great, but there are lots of clubs that can get them TV ratings, and the Champions League draws ridiculous ratings no matter what. But Alexander Ceferin hates Florentino Perez, does not like Real Madrid. They tried to create the Super League. They tried to destroy the Champions League. Why? Why would there ever be a conspiracy theory to help them win? It doesn't make any sense. It's like saying the whole plane should be made out of the black box. You gotta think when you're gonna spew this nonsense. Listen, the end of the game between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid was awful, and that is a terrible, terrible way to win the game or to end the game, with a double touch and it being reviewed, and it's a minuscule touch and all those things. I'm with you on the arguments, and we're going to talk about what the solutions are here in a second. But to blame VAR and to, cite conspiracy theories that don't make any sense is just uneducated, and you don't get it. I'm sorry, I'm being harsh, but I've had to make so many of these videos, and the long-standing tradition of just shouting conspiracy theories and blaming technology in the football world is so utterly outdated and pedantic and just flat out wrong that I'm so tired of it. So I'm not going to mince words, and I'm just going to tell you how it is. We're going to get into all that here in a second, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get in the comment section. I don't care. I'm not here to make any friends. This is my opinion, and I stand by it. Get in the comment section. Let me know what you think. You can also leave comments on Twitter, Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. All right, so again, bad ending, right? This is a terrible way to end what had been a really great dual leg match between, rivals, right? Crosstown rivals. It's an ongoing derby matchup. I mean, this was the pinnacle of the Champions League round, this and the PSG Liverpool game from the day before. This was one of the highlight matchups. So for it to end like this is bad. 100% agree. I will also say I didn't care really about the outcome. I'm a Manchester City supporter. I certainly have no love lost for Real Madrid. If anything, I was rooting for Atletico Madrid just to, throw a wrench into things and get some new blood in there and whatever. But I honestly didn't really have an outcome that I was rooting for in this game. I didn't have any money on it or anything like that. So I don't have a dog in this fight. I just want to see good product on the field. And that's really the problem here, is that this outcome diminishes what should have otherwise been a great product. And there's a couple ways we can fix that. But getting rid of VAR is not one of them, and that's been one of the most common responses I've seen is, if you have to go into VAR and check out this minuscule little touch, that's destroying the game. No, that's exactly why VAR exists. We're going to get to that in a second. But my biggest issue is the shouting of conspiracy theories, right? Anytime a call goes against a club or goes for a club that people think get a lot of the calls, the go-to move is, it's all about money. It's all a conspiracy. No, it's not. No, it's not. And listen, I get why people gravitate towards that. You can sort of explain why it would be, right? That it's, UEFA's a massive conglomerate, global organization with a ton of money on the line. And yes, they would probably like clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona and Liverpool and the clubs with these giant fan bases to make the finals so that they get as much TV revenue as possible out of this, or so that the ratings look good so they can charge more for TV revenue down the future. I mean, I get that. But to have a coordinated conspiracy where you have officials, voluntarily making bad calls, and that's what this would take. Corruption at that level, which would leave a paper trail, which would leave evidence. It would be so. The magnitude of this would be so astronomical that they could never even risk it, even for the millions upon millions of dollars that they're potentially trying to make. The risk just simply would not be worth it. There's always a paper trail. And these guys get busted. Look at what happened to Sandro Tonali. Look what's going on with Lucas Paqueta. There's always a paper trail when this sort of stuff happens. And there's no way they're pulling that off without some sort of evidence. And it just simply isn't worth it. They're making money hand over fist. If they want to make more money, they just add games. They add a new format. There's plenty of ways to do it without there having to be this massive conspiracy. Not to mention the ridiculous absurdity of suggesting that Alexander Ceferin and UEFA are going to be doing anything in favor of Real Madrid, whose ownership openly tried to destroy the very tournament you're claiming they're trying to help them win. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They would love to see anybody but Real Madrid win this tournament. So the whole thing is just nonsense, and I just don't have time for anybody who is shouting conspiracy theories. And frankly, if you have a big platform, whether you write for a mainstream audience or not, if you have a big platform on Twitter, on YouTube, whatever, you have a responsibility not to spout conspiracy theories, because it makes the average fan uneducated. It gives the average fan excuses. It makes them dumber. And I'm sorry, you have a responsibility to be better than that. I've only got 2,000 followers. I am nobody here, and I take that very seriously. You have a responsibility not to spout that sort of nonsense, because that's exactly what it is. It's nonsense. Now that we have that out of the way, the other common whipping boy is VAR. And I understand it, but I still think it's, pick your analogy. Cutting off your nose to spite your face, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If your goal is to get rid of VAR because you don't like the fact that it rules on these little minuscule touches or an inch over the line or whatever, that's why VAR exists. It is video assistance, right? Sometimes there are calls in games with bigger, faster, stronger players and angles, and you've got one official out there. Sometimes they need video assistance. That is the whole point of this. And every time it's a call where it feels a little minutia-esque, right? It feels a little ticky-tacky. Everybody says that's why VAR shouldn't be any good. But when it gets the call right and helps in a way that they say, oh, well, see, that's, that would have been a bad call. Well, no one ever says, hey, good job. That's why VAR exists. Except me, I shout it all the time. But you don't hear a lot of that. People love to bash VAR. And listen, VAR is far from perfect. It needs to be sped up. It needs to be more efficient. I hate the blatant, the language where it has to be some blatant mistake, right? The call should be about getting it right, not just correcting the massive mistakes. And I've done videos on all of this stuff. We need to help officials out more. I still think there should be 2 officials on the pitch, or 3, not just 1. That leads to more mistakes that VAR then has to correct. I believe that officials need to be empowered with better rules. And that's really my issue here with the double touch. So, the double touch was very, very small. And if you're claiming it didn't exist, you haven't looked at the right evidence. There is clearly his foot slides just a little bit, and you can see the ball roll just a little bit before his right foot makes contact with it. It is a double touch. I don't think that's really disputable for anybody who wants to actually deal with reason here. That said, there are 2 arguments being made. One is that, well, that's too ticky-tacky to really even be in effect. Well, that's not a judgment that VAR is allowed to make. That's the point of VAR, is to see the things that the human can't see. Because where do we draw the line? Right on offsides. People always get mad when it's, oh, he's only offsides by an arm hair. Well, how much offsides are you allowed to be exactly, right? The line has to be drawn somewhere. We draw the line literally on the goal line, and it doesn't matter if the ball crosses by this much or hits the back of the net and crosses by this much. A goal is a goal, or it's not a goal. And that's why we have the goal line assistance. We have out of bounds assistance. You have it in tennis. You have it in all sorts of sports. In the NFL here, was this foot in by this much, or was it on the line? That's the whole point of it, is sometimes the calls really are this close. Why wouldn't we just get it right? So it doesn't matter if his foot touches it and it rotates by 1 degree, or if he knocks it all the way out, or if it's like the one that everybody brought back out yesterday on social media, which was the Messi double touch in the World Cup, which was much more blatant and should have been overturned. It doesn't matter which one it is or how extreme it is. That's the point of VAR, is to get it right. And if you don't like it, change the rule. Now, just back to that Messi thing for a second. Should have been overturned. Why it wasn't, I don't know. However, one of the things I'm very tired of is the whataboutism. right? Every time there's a bad call that goes against your club, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't a bad call, or that wasn't called, but this is, that's why it's a conspiracy. No, people just get things wrong sometimes. I don't believe there was a conspiracy to help Lionel Messi win the World Cup either. Again, for all the same reasons I said before, sometimes people just mess up. It happens, and getting it wrong then doesn't mean you can't call it now. None of that's not how anything works, okay? But you're gonna, it doesn't matter how minuscule the call is. Now, what we should be debating are two things. One, this rule that if there's a double touch, it's an automatic miss. Absolutely awful rule. And the best analogy I saw, and I apologize to whoever has said this, probably a lot of people on social media, but I saw it and it's absolutely right. If the goalkeeper comes off his line too early, something else that VAR can check, and by the way, if his foot is off this much, they call it. If he leaves early by a millisecond, they call it. And if he comes off early and makes the save, it's not an automatic goal, it's a redo. Right? So why isn't that the rule here? Why didn't Julian Alvarez get a redo here? That's what that rule should be. It's not that the double touch rule is bad, because somebody would manage to figure out how to do that on purpose and change the trajectory of the ball. It's not that that's a bad rule, but the punishment doesn't make any sense. To just say it's a non-goal is far too extreme. Should have lined him back up and made him do it again, just like it would have been if Thibaut Courtois had come off the line early and made the save. They would have just lined Alvarez back up and had him redo it. So that's a very obvious fix that they should change for next year. You can't change it mid-competition, but that should be changed with 100% vote. Very simple, let's just fix this. So that's the first one. The other one here, and I have shouted this from the rooftops, I make a video on this almost every single year. Penalty kicks are the worst. They're so stupid. It leads to controversy. It does not help you get the outcome you deserve, which is that the better team wins. It's just awful. It's an awful way to decide these games. And the question I always get is, well, what's the better option? Play another game. Have a third leg if you have to. And I know the fixture schedule is jam-packed and these guys are running on fumes at this point. Find another way to lighten up the schedule and get these games in, because you're playing stupid Carabao Cup games that mean almost nothing. You got a damn Club World Cup. You expanded this tournament to include extra games, which is really the biggest culprit here. And then when you get to the real pinnacle events, which are these knockout rounds, round of 16, round of 8, you're deciding them with a freaking coin flip. It's awful. It's awful. Keep it to the amount of teams that were in it before. Limit the number of teams you had, the number of games they play, and then play it out. If that needs a third leg, play a damn third leg. If it needs a fourth leg, play a damn fourth leg. I don't care what it takes. Play it out on the field, not with this home run derby 3-point contest nonsense that the penalty kicks bring. It's awful. It is a complete coin flip. Nobody wants to be in them. Nobody wants it to come down to that unless you are the inferior team, because it gives you a shot, and that should tell you all you need to know. If you're the inferior team, you play for penalty kicks because it gives you a better shot to win. That goes against the spirit of everything we are trying to do here. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar tournament, competition, and organization here, and then you're going to decide it on this utter nonsense. I've said before, yes, it creates drama, but so would executing a player every 10 minutes on the pitch. Just because it creates drama doesn't mean it's good for the sport, and doesn't mean it leads to finding the right outcome in the competitive spirit of the game, which is who is the best team, or more importantly, who plays the best in this competition and thus deserves to win. Go to more extra time if you have to, allow deeper benches, allow more subs, play third legs, play fourth legs, whatever you have to do. Just get rid of the stinking penalty kicks. They are so awful. And this is my big issue if we're going to go sort of global here. This is my big issue with the footballing world and why I suggest such radical changes at times. It is so archaic. This is just one of those situations where somebody 150 years ago decided this is how it should be done, and they still do it this way, and everybody loves it because everybody loves tradition. It's dumb. It doesn't work. It doesn't achieve the goal of what we're trying to do, except ends the game and picks a winner. Not the right winner all the time, maybe, but it picks a winner and gets us out of there. Well, that's not the goal. I also think, like I said, we need two officials. We need We need a rule. I've made a video about this. We need the ability for the officials to call a foul inside the penalty box that doesn't lead to penalty shots, because sometimes those are too extreme of a penalty. We have all sorts of situations where there's a foul and it's not a shooting situation, but he's inside the box, and it's, the official doesn't call anything because offering a penalty kick in this situation would be way too extreme of a punishment for a sort of ticky-tack foul. But his only alternative is to do that or do nothing. Should there be a card in between yellows or reds? Should there be less of a punishment for 2 yellows versus a straight red? All sorts of changes that need to be made as the game grows, and none of them want to take place because it is so steeped in tradition. And I love the tradition. I love the tradition of the game, but it gets in the way sometimes, and penalty kicks are the biggest example. I hate them. I hate when my team's in them. I hate watching them. You watch 120 minutes of a great game, and then it comes down to that, and it doesn't create drama for me. Not drama I want to watch. I watch it because it's like, okay, well, I need to see the winner, and I'm invested now, but it's not, I don't find it exciting. I just find, okay, well, something's going to happen and we're going to be disappointed. Somebody ends up being the scapegoat. Somebody gets abused online. Somebody ends up getting, absolutely just trashed, their reputation. Just the whole thing is utter nonsense, and it's time for penalty kicks to go. What could we replace it with? I put my suggestion out there, but I'd love to hear yours. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the VAR and how this went down. Get down in that comment section. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. You can also leave some comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. While you're at it, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me so you can follow the channel and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.